Hi there, welcome back to Delightful Dogs Dog Training. I'm Rachel, and with me I've got Pepper helping me out to demonstrate the basics of the Leave It cue. I've got with me some high value treats, hit a little cup. I'm gonna kind of keep them off to the side. I've got some bacon treats and some little crunchy training treats that I know that Pepper enjoys. I have a clicker if you're using a clicker, and if you're not, you can use your conditioned reinforcer. And I use the word yes as my conditioned reinforcer. If you don't have a conditioned reinforcer or you're not sure what that is, please stop this video and go ahead back to my video on establishing a conditioned reinforcer, because that's going to be a really important foundational skill for your dog for all of your training. So the Leave It cue is really important. It's one of what we call the core 5, which is sit down, watch me, leave it, and come. And it's an important cue for that time you're out for a walk and you pass by something really nasty on the street you don't want your dog to get into. You want them to completely ignore it. You drop something on the ground your dog shouldn't have, a grape, a pill, something that is off limits. And it's a great way to teach your dog a little bit of impulse control. So yeah, we're gonna work on teaching it. You can start pretty basically just in a seated position like I am. As we advance through it and make the Leave It cue a little more challenging, we can do that using our heel work, walking on a loose leash, and put objects of temptation down to make the Leave It cue a little more challenging. To start today, we're just gonna do it seated here, and I'll show you kind of how we get started. So as I mentioned, I've got my high value treats. I kind of keep them out of the way. I've got my clicker, which I'll use, but I will also just use my conditioned reinforcer word. So you can do either. And then I also have a larger object of temptation, in this case, a milk bone, which I'm going to use because it's just a little bigger. It's a little easier to keep track of. When I start the Leave It cue with my dog, now Pepper's done this a few times now, but she's not great at it. She still tries to get to the item. I'm gonna start with it in my hand, and I'm gonna make a fist so that she knows it's in there, she can smell it, but that she can't get to it. It's very important when teaching the Leave It cue that you set your dog up for success and you have them on a leash and have it so they can't really get to the item you're trying to teach them to leave until they're at a level where you're very confident they're not going to take the item. If they do get it, that's going to self-reinforce to ignore your cue of Leave It. So very important to remember. I'm going to go ahead and start with Pepper. Peps, hi, come here, come here, yes. Just going to kind of get her attention with a little conditioned reinforcer. And then I'm going to hold the milk bone in my hand like this. And I'm going to make a fist, and I'm going to let her sniff it. And I'm going to say, leave it, and she looks away, and I'm going to click and say yes, and give her a different treat, not this one. We will get to the take it cue, which is allowing her to then have the thing that you've said that she can't have, but you don't always want to do this because there's some things that your dog just can never have. So it's important to sometimes allow them to take it, and sometimes that's it, it's just off limits. So I'm going to do a couple more times. I'm going to make a fist. I'm going to let her sniff it. I'm going to say, leave it. Leave it. And she's going to look away and stop trying to get to it. And I'm going to use my conditioned reinforcer or my clicker and give her a treat. So here I am. Leave it. Hey, come here. Leave it. And she looks away, doesn't pay attention. Now, to make it a little more challenging, I'm going to put it on my hand, open palm, and just cover it with my thumb. Leave it. Leave it. And she looks away, she looks at me, she gets a treat. Same thing, repeat. Leave it. She stops trying to even investigate it, she gets a treat. Again, leave it. She looks away, she gets a treat. Then I'm gonna switch to my open palm. It might take a little more time when you're just starting out with your dog, but because I've done this a few times with Pepper now, she's a little more comfortable with this cue. And there will be a second video where you can watch my older dog, Bonham, demonstrating a longer duration of the leave it cue. Come here, Pips. Good. All right, I'm gonna put it in my open hand and say, leave it. Leave it. And then she looks away, she looks at me, and hopefully it's easy enough to see in this video. Leave it. Oh, she looked right away on that. She knew this is not for her. And I'm gonna do it again. Leave it. And she looks right at me and says, I know I'm not supposed to have that, and I click and I treat. So that's the basics of leave it. As with any cue, once you kind of directly teach the basics, then you want to add the 3 Ds, which is distance, duration, and distraction. So gradually setting your dog up for success, making them leave it for a longer period of time, making them leave something higher value, creating more distance from yourself. So stepping out, stepping further away, stepping out of the room, as you'll see in my next video of the higher level leave it work, and adding more distraction, you know, having things happening in the room. Maybe ask a family member to create a little distraction. This idea behind leave it with more distraction, think about like you have a party and you put out hors d'oeuvres. You don't want to worry that your dog's going to come and help themselves to the cheese and crackers plate. So that's another just great example of how leave it comes in handy. You can tell your dog, hey, this is off limits to you. And if you do your solid foundational training with leave it, they should understand that and leave the hors d'oeuvres alone. I hope this was a helpful video. If you have any questions or would like further support, feel free to email me at rachel@delightfuldogsma.com, and please visit my website www.delightfuldogsma.com to find out more about my dog training services in and around the Boston area. Be well and happy training.